Hey Alex, how are you?
Yeah, good as. How you doing? Good to see you guys.
Likewise.
Welcome. So, do you want to go
Yeah,
through?
we'll head on in if that's all right.
Yeah, all right, cool. All right,
Thanks.
awesome. So if you want to follow me around here, I'll sort of take you through a little bit of the process on what we do and how we do it in the workshop. So I go down to the South Island and I buy the jade in its sort of raw state in larger blocks. The beautiful thing about New Zealand greenstone is that it comes in all sort of shades and colors. So like even in just such a small piece, you've got sort of your lighter green or your dark green, and then it fades out into a yellow. And that is present in sort of all sorts of shades and colors. And depending on the block, it can be entirely yellow or entirely green. And this stuff here is what we call flower jade, where it's got sort of blooms of yellow flower coming in through it. I'll just grab a little bit of water so that you can actually see that. So that there is some of New Zealand's most prized jade, in that just because of its characteristics. So we bring in the blocks, and we work with local iwi members in the South Island who find the jade. I go down, buy it from them, then we bring it in, and using this saw here, which is the diamond saw, and this here, which is also a very large diamond saw, we cut up the blocks into slabs. So this is a slab that has just come off that saw. And then once it comes off there, we'll design what we want to design. And then either using the drill press, the trim saws, we'll cut it up into smaller pieces like so. And then or bigger pieces depending on what we're making. And then from there we'll go through to the next area of the workshop. And then using diamond grinders like these, we'll grind it into whatever shape that we'd want. So like this here would be ideal for a tuki, which is an adze, which was traditionally used for wood carving. And then once we've done our rough grinding, we'd bring it over to here, which is this diamond sanding belts. Now the important thing about carving greenstone is that it always has to have water. So at every stage of the process, there must be water on it, otherwise you'll either ruin the jade or ruin the diamond gear. So this is a coarse diamond sanding. This is a fine silicon carbide sanding belt, which will lead us to a really nice matte finish. But then if we want to take it to one step further, which is usually when we get into our jewelry grade stuff, I'll give you an example over here, which is what often we do with our earrings. With our earrings, we'll end up polishing them just because it lets the light in and shows the stone off a lot nicer. And then after that, these will have sterling silver or gold fittings put onto them by our jeweler over in the corner there. Like this here is a greenstone cabochon that's been made up. And so that there is the matte finish. But then on the sides here we have a high polish, but this has been inlaid with 24 karat gold with Māori core whaiwhai designs. And like other things, we do rings and settings as well, or we'll just put handmade or mass-produced silver fittings onto the earrings, depending on what they are. So now that I've taken you through the process, let's go through to the showroom and I'll show you the piece that we've made for you, which is the mere pounamu on the stand.
So when we came in, we were talking originally about using the pikorua pattern to show the joining of the two. Can you tell us about how you've translated that meaning into the core whaiwhai pattern we have there, please?
When we were talking about it the other day, sort of my thoughts were around the pikorua pattern is more of a 3D sculptural design, and I felt that if we were to carve that on a surface decoration, it wouldn't suit it so much. So this here is a double koru design, which is kind of a kōwhaiwhai whakairo engraving, which was traditionally done on a lot of carvings. And so the double koru symbolizes the coming together of two cultures, but the thing about the koru is that it's also sort of an infinity sign as well, or it folds out and continues forever to fold out, but also come back to its roots, which is based off the New Zealand fern frond. And within it you'll see there are almost a fish scale design, and so the fish scale design symbolizes like the ripples that we have, or that the joining and the unity of this, the coming together of the two people, companies, organizations, whatever it is. The fish scale designs show the effect that has continuously. But there's sort of another mythology around the fish scale, or the unuunahi design, because to Māori the unuunahi is seen everywhere, which is the half moon or the fish scale. So we see it as sort of a cycle of life. The fish scale design is seen in the crescent moon, and then the crescent moon shines onto the water, and then within the water you see all those ripples coming off. But also within the waves you've got the korus, which is the spirals. Now within the water, the moon shines through to the fish and gives it its scales. Then once the fish have their scales, man catches the fish, eats the fish to give us our bones, which is the representation of wealth, abundance, and sort of a cycle of life.
So the Pounamu stone, where was that sourced from?
So this particular piece of stone was found by a group of fossickers sort of around the 70s, 80s, down in Big Bay, which is in the South Island, Southwestland. And it's this particular bay which is really, really hard to get to, but at the time there was a lot of jade there, and the jade boulders were huge. You know, they were sort of the size of your car, or half the size of your car. And so there's this group of people, they had a mining right or a mining license to go and collect the stone and look for the stone. So a lot of these stones, what they'd do is they would find them, drill into them, using a core drill, and then we're using a feather and tap system, which is, you know, you basically very fine long wedges you'd place into the holes, and then you tap one after the other, and it'd slowly split the stone, where they'd be able to bring it out in a suitable weight, which was between 1 and 5 ton. But that was, you know, these are the smaller blocks of what they were.
So if it's hard to get access, how do you bring out a stone over helicopter?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, even getting in there, these guys had to be flown in there with a helicopter. They'd leave them there for a week or two, and then at a prearranged date, the helicopter would come back, pick them up, and possibly the stone as well if it was ready. Yeah, so it was risky back then, because, you know, there's no one else around, there's no healthcare available, and I was sort of, you know, it was the Wild West. But this is how they brought the stone out at the time. Now a lot of the stone is brought out through finding it up the rivers, and then, you know, sort of in carryable weights. Yeah, and that stone is found around Hokitika. So traditionally, mere pounamu were a ceremonial weapon. Ceremonial in the sense that they were very prized, they were very rare, because greenstone in itself is very hard to work. It's done by sanding and pecking. So pecking is when you take a hammerstone and you slowly, very slowly take out small chunks, but it is very difficult and very hard to do. And greenstone in itself is very hard to find, especially if you want to get the right quality. So these were ceremonial in the sense that they could be used as a weapon to fight in battle, but they were so rare that it's cheaper and easier to use the likes of wood, whalebone or basalt, which were very common all around New Zealand as well. So these were seen as chiefly tohunga. Tohunga means treasure. As a chiefly tohunga, these would be handed down from generation to generation, but also used in whakairo, which is sort of like a talking stick. It'd be held to emphasize the mana or the spirit of the person who was speaking.
I was wondering if you could tell us about the significance of kauri, please.
So kauri in itself is a tree. It's a native New Zealand tree. Kauri, I don't know, they're a very, very old tree. So they're almost prehistoric to New Zealand culture. You know, they've been around for, you know, as long as 40,000 years. These trees have been dated. So this particular piece is swamp kauri. Now swamp kauri, depending on the part of the country where it's found, can be up to 40,000 years old. These trees were huge. You know, you could dig a hole in it and then drive your car through it, or, you know, build a cabin. You know, these are just the biggest trees that you could get in New Zealand. So I mean, kauri and whales have a bit of an interesting story, because when the wind blows through the leaves of the kauri trees, they produce a frequency which is the same of that a whale produces when it sings. And so there's this relativity between the song of the kauri tree, of the leaves of the kauri tree, and the whale. So there's this interconnected which Māori were aware of, because Māori use kauri to build waka and wharenui and houses and everything like that. So it was a great resource. But also whales. Whales were sacred to Māori because of what they were. Because they provided an abundant food source, which we just talked about with the ununahi. They provided weapons and adornments, but also through the navigational path in the ocean, I understand that Māori followed them and used it to chart their voyages.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Awesome. Sweet.
Nice.